Hi everyone, this is your grade 6 history chapter 11 Buildings, Paintings and Kingdoms video 1. Yes, Maratasamy and the Iron Pillar. Maratasamy was so excited. His brother had propelled his wheelchair all along the dusty, stony path, past the towering Qutub Minar and up the metal ramp. It had been tough, but now he was here, in front of the famous Iron Pillar. It was an unforgettable experience for him. Okay. The Iron Pillar at Merali, Delhi is a remarkable example of the skill of Indian craftsperson. And it is made up of iron, 7.2-meter high and weighs over 3 tons. It was made up about 1500 years ago. We know that date because there is an inscription on the pillar mentioning a ruler named Chandra who was probably belonged to the Gupta dynasty. What is amazing is the fact that the pillar has not rusted in all these years. Okay. Buildings in bricks and stone. The skills of our craft person are also apparent in the buildings that have survived, such as stupas. The word stupa means a mound. While there are several kinds of stupas, round and tall, big and small, these have certain common features. Generally, there is a small box placed at the center or the heart of the stupa. This may contain bodily remains such as teeth, bone, ashes of the Buddha or his followers, or things they used as well as precious stones and coins. This box, known as the relic cascade, was covered with earth. Later, a layer of mud brick or baked brick was added on top, and then the dome like structure was sometimes covered with carved stone slabs. So, you can refer the image of this great stupa in page number 115 in your social science, history content book or past one. Okay. Often, a path known as the Prakadishina Patha was laid around the stupa. This was surrounded with railings. Entrance to the path was through gateways. Devotees walked around the stupa in a clockwise direction as a mark of devotion. Both railings and gateways were often decorated with sculpture. Okay. Other buildings were hollowed out of rock to make artificial caves. Some of these were very elaborately decorated with sculptures and painted walls. Some of the earliest Hindu temples were also built at this time. Deities such as Vishnu, Shiva, and Durga were worshipped in these shrines. The most important part of the temple was the room known as the Garbhagriha. In Tamil, we will tell it as Garbhagraham. Okay, where the god is seated. Where the image of the chief deity was placed, it was here that priests performed religious rituals and devotees offered worship to the deity. Often, as at Bitteragain, a tower known as the Shikara was built on top of the Garbhagriha to mark this out as a sacred place, which is related to God, which is related to worship. Building Shikaras required careful planning. Most temples also had a space known as the Mandapa. It was a hall where people could assemble during prayer. Okay. Some of the finest stone temples were built in these stones. Some of these are shown in your lesson 11. Okay, which is in page number 116. How were stupas and temples built? There were several stages in building, right? A stupa or a temple. Usually, kings or queens decided to build these as it was an expensive affair. First, good quality stone had to be found, quarried, and transported to the place that was often carefully chosen for the new building. Here, these rough blocks of stone had to be shaped and carved into pillars and panels for walls, floors, and ceilings, and then these had to be placed in precisely the right position. Kings and queens probably spent money from their treasury to pay the craftspersons who worked to build these splendid structures. Besides, when devotees came to visit the temple or the stupa, they often brought gifts which were used to decorate the buildings, like precious stones. Okay, for example, an association of ivory workers paid for one of the beautiful gateways at Sanchi. Among the others who paid for decoration were merchants, farmers, garland makers, perfumers, smiths, and hundreds of men and women who are known only by their names, which were inscribed on the pillars, railings, and walls. So, when you get a chance to visit any of these buildings, remember how several hundreds of people probably work to construct these beautiful stupas and, decorate them. Okay, painting. Okay, there's a painting which is in your book, page number 118. This is a place where several caves were hollowed out of these hills over centuries. Most of these were monasteries where monks stayed. Okay, for Buddhist, like Buddhist monks, and some of them were decorated with paintings. Here are some examples. As the caves are dark inside, most of these paintings were done in the light of torches. The colors, which are vivid even after 1500 years, were made of plants and minerals. The artist who created these splendid works of art remain unknown. The world of books. Some of the best known epics were written during this period. Epics are grand, long composition about heroic men and women and include stories about gods, so on. Okay. A famous Tamil epic like Silapadiharam was composed by a poet named Ilango Vadihal around 1800 years ago. It is a story of a merchant named Kovalan who lived in Puhar and fell in love with a courtesan named Madhavi and neglecting his wife Kannagi. Later he and Kannagi left Puhar and went to Madurai, where he was wrongly accused of theft by the court jeweler of the Pandya king. The king sentenced Kovalan to death. Kannagi, who still loved him, was full of grief and anger at this injustice and destroyed the entire city of Madurai. Another Tamil epic called Manimegalai was composed by Satanar around 1400 years ago. This describes the story of the daughter of Kovalan and Madhavi. These beautiful compositions were lost to scholars for many centuries till their manuscripts were rediscovered about 100 years ago. Other writers such as Kalidasa wrote about whom you read in chapter 10, right? Wrote in Sanskrit. And recording and preserving old stories. A number of Hindu religious stories that were in circulation earlier were written down around the same time. These include the Puranas. Purana literally mean old. The Puranas contain stories about gods and goddesses such as Vishnu, Shiva, Durga or Parvati. The Puranas were written in simple Sanskrit verse and were meant to be heard by everybody, including women and Shudras, who were not allowed to study the Vedas. They were probably recited in temples by priests, and people came to listen to them. Two Sanskrit epics, the Mahabharata and Ramayana, had been very popular for a very long time. Some of you may be familiar of these with these stories. The Mahabharata is about a war fought between the Kauravas and Pandavas, who were cousins. This was a war to gain control of the throne of the Kurus and their capital, Hastinapura. The story itself was an old one but was written down in the form in which we know it today, about 1500 years ago. Both of the Puranas and the Mahabharata are supposed to have been compiled by Vyasa. The Bhagavad Gita, about which you learnt in chapter 9, was also included in Mahabharata. Ramayana is completely about Rama, a prince of Kosala who was sent to exile. His wife Sita was abducted by the king of Lanka, Sri Lanka, named Ravana, and Rama had to fight a battle to get her back. He won and returned to Ayodhya, the capital of Kosala, after the victory. Like the Mahabharata, this was an old story that was now written down. Valmiki is recognized as the author of Sanskrit Ramayana. And stories told by ordinary people. Okay, ordinary people also told stories. Composed poems and songs, sang and danced and performed plays. Some of these are preserved in collections of stories such as Jatakas and Panchatantra stories, which were written down around these times. Stories from the Jatakas were often shown on the railings of stupas and paintings in places such as Ajanta. Okay. Writing books on science. This was also the time when Aryabhatta, a mathematician and astronomer, wrote a book in Sanskrit known as the Aryabhattiyan. So you have read about Aryabhatta in your grade 5, right children? He stated that day and night were caused by the rotation of the earth on its axis. Even though it seems as the sun is rising and setting every day, he developed a scientific explanation for eclipses as well, solar eclipse as well as lunar eclipse. He also found a way of calculating the circumference of a circle, which is nearly as accurate as the formula we use today. Varahamihira, Brahmagupta, and Bhaskaracharya were some of the other mathematicians and astronomers who made several discoveries on this. Try and find out more about them. Okay, 0. While numerals had been used earlier, mathematicians in India now invented a special symbol for 0. This system of counting was adapted by the Arabs and then spread to Europe. It continues to be in use throughout the world. Ayurveda. Ayurveda is a well-known system of health science that was developed in ancient India. The two famous practitioners of Ayurveda in ancient India were Charaka and Sushruta. About them also you have read in your grade 5, Charaka Samhita and Charaka Samhita written by Charak is a remarkable book on medicine, and Sushruta Samhita, it is also a book on surgical procedures, right? Paper has become a part of our daily lives. The books where we read are printed on paper and we use paper for writing. Paper was invented in China about 1900 years ago by a man named Kailun or Chailun. Okay. He beat a plant fibers, cloth, rope and the bark of trees, soaked these in water and then pressed, drained and dried the pulp to create paper. Even today, handmade paper is made through a similar process. For this, you can refer your content book page number 123 to refer all about Zero, Ayurveda and paper. Okay. So based on this lesson, children, and based on this video, there are few questions. Answer the following questions. First question, where is Iron Pillar located? What was Bitaragan? Refer page number 116 in content book for answer. How were stupas and temples built? Why did the painting in Ajanta caves done in the light of torches? Name any two epics which were written in Sanskrit. Thanks for watching the video. Keep watching.